Amazing day to all. This is Teacher Dan Rogayan, and in this episode, we're going to talk about the Enhanced Table of Specifications or TOS released by the Professional Regulation Commission or PRC for the Licensure Examination for Professional Teachers or LEPT or LEPT, which will begin this March 2023. Samahan ninyo ako sa alam ng bawat coverage, specifically on general education and professional education. So let me first share my slide. As I mentioned, no, this is the enhanced TOS as issued by the Professional Regulatory Board for Professional Teachers, Board Resolution number 11, series of 2020. If you have watched my recent video, I already included in the let review the coverage of every review a drill that you're going to make so that you will be reminded and you will be guided uh, once we do the drill or let review drill. So pag-uusapan natin ngayon, ano nga ba yung magiging coverage ng Gen Ed for March 2023 licensure examination for professional teachers as well as the professional education subject. So two-part to. First, we're going to discuss the Gen Ed, and then secondly, we're going to discuss the Prof Ed. So for the Gen Ed, no? So the enhanced TOS for the GE subjects are actually composed, uh, are actually categorized into three groups, no? So let me have the pointer here. So the first is the intellectual competencies. So the part A will be the intellectual competencies. Part B would be the personal and civic responsibilities. And then part C is the practical skills development. So for intellectual competencies, this actually accounts for 40% ng magiging exam ninyo for Gen Ed. That is equivalent to 60 items. So 60 items will be dealing about intellectual competencies. So alamin natin later on ano yung coverage ng intellectual competencies. Okay? Then for part B, that is personal and civic responsibilities. So these account for 30%. Okay? So ilang items yun? That is, of course, 45 items. So 30% for personal and civic responsibilities. And lastly, for practical skills development, this is composed of 30%, and that is equivalent also to 45 items. So all in all, we have 150 items for general education subjects for your left. So same pa rin, okay? Same pa rin na 150 items, but these are further categorized into three components. And for the Gen Ed, so tatanong natin siguro, natatanong nyo or naiisip nyo, pareho ba yung coverage for BS Ed and BEd, for Bachelor of Secondary Education and for Bachelor of Elementary Education? Yes po, no? Pareho sila and pareho din yung item distribution and even the percentage distribution. So alamin natin, no, the subcategories and the different courses or subjects under these components. So I actually made a matrix here. I compared the PRC enhanced TOS na inilabas ng Professional Regulation Commission, and then ibinangga natin ito sa CMO number 20 series of 2013. Remember, this is the CHED Memorandum Order regarding the new general education courses or curriculum or the new GEC, the teacher education curriculum. And then idinagdag ko din dito yung late na issue yung CMO number 57 series of 2017, which actually covers the offering of Filipino courses in the higher education. Dahil medyo nagkaroon 'di ba ng issue regarding the offering of the Filipino courses sa inilabas ng 2013, and so nagkaroon ng issue once in 2017 to add Filipino. Okay? So, as you can see, nahahati ito sa tatlo, and then alamin natin yung mga subjects. So for under intellectual competencies, we have 4 subjects: purposive communication in English, malayuning komunikasyon sa wikang Filipino, science and technology, and mathematics. So basically, these are the common subjects, 'di ba, ng Gen Ed natin in the old curriculum. So ibabangga lang natin ano yung mga offered na GE courses sa new teacher education curriculum. So, syempre, sa GE5 or General Education 5, may purposive communication. Then we have malayuning komunikasyon pa rin sa wikang Filipino under the CMO number 57, series of 2017. But this particular course has sub-courses, no? Iba-iba to. Depende doon sa ino-offer, no? Sa teacher education curriculum. Then for science and technology, we have GE7, that is Science, Technology, and Society. So ito yung isa sa mga GE subject natin under the CMO 2023. And then of course, for mathematics, we have GE4, Mathematics in the Modern World. So basically, ano lang, same lang, no? Same lang yung ginamit na subject description ni PRC Enhanced TOS and then base doon sa CMO. So, medyo nawala lang yung in English dito, no? Although that's given naman in English. And then for mathematics, that's mathematics in the modern. Okay, so apat yun. Then for component B, personal and civic responsibilities, may tatlo dyan. The readings in Philippine History and Society, the same pa rin naman ang subject description, GE2. Readings in Philippine History. So kasama dito yung mga salient and significant events in the Philippine history. The life and works of Rizal, hindi mawawala yon. So life and works of Rizal, the same subject description in the teacher education curriculum, GE12, that is Republic Act 1425, diba? The offering of Rizal courses, including the life of other heroes and heroines. And then for ethics, ethics pa rin naman, GE8. So the same description base sa curriculum natin na inilabas ng CHED, no? And then last component is actually the practical skills development composed of 3 subjects. So the contemporary world, the same subject description based on the curriculum. Art appreciation, GE6, the same description. Understanding the cell, GE1, the same description. So basically, these are the major subject areas, okay, under the GE component of your licensure examination for professional. The reason why why I actually made a matrix para lang makita natin anong subject, no, doon sa na-offer, nakuha ninyo, na-offer ng TEI ninyo, ng teacher education curriculum, ang katapat nito base doon sa ibinigay or inilabas ng PRC na table of specification. So basically, nakuha nyo tong lahat. So ito yung mga babalikan ninyo. For the old curriculum, iba, di ba? Iba yung nakuha ninyo dito sa bagong inilabas na to. However, yung mga questions, ng mga previous let questions, makakonsider pa rin kasi pwede natin sila namang ihani sa math, sa science, sa Filipino, sa English, then sa social sciences, di ba? So basically, there's still, these are the materials that you have probably can still help you know, remember the basic or the common concepts, no, na maaari pa rin ilabas, no, ng PRC. Basta nakaangkla tayo sa mga TOS. Ngayon, for example, you are graduates of old curriculum, okay, marami tayong open access materials, okay, na pwede nating ma-download, okay, online, para ma-cover natin, no, itong mga GE na to. And as I mentioned, no, commitment natin, kaya dinidiscuss ko to, para guided tayo. So this will be my guide also to produce, let review video lectures pa with rationalization that will guide you and help you know in your preparation for your board examination. Okay? So ito yung general education coverage. So again, napakalinaw. Base ito sa GE courses na inilabas ng CHED under CMO number 20, series of 2013, including the supplemental CMO 57 series of 2017 for Filipino. Okay? Ngayon, alamin natin yung mga specific, no? Specific learning outcomes and learning competencies, no, ng bawat subject na to, yung mga topics and learning outcomes. So, I actually printed that. Ito yan. So, para guided din ako sa mga gagawin kong material, gagawin kong mga questions, no, para at least ma-cover natin itong mga to. So again, the component A is for the intellectual competencies. So nakita natin, number 1 is purposive communication in English. So there are 2 topics and learning outcomes here. 1.1 is to use the English language with ease and effective communication. Then 1.2, use the English language confidently for special purposes. So these will be the focus no under the purposive communication in English. Okay? Then for malayuning komunikasyon sa wikang Filipino, may dalawa din tayong paksa dito. 2.1, nagagamit ang wikang Filipino sa larangang akademiko, no? Kung paano nagagamit ang wika sa ah, sa larangan na pang-akademiko. At yung ikalawa ay nagagamit ang wikang Filipino sa iba't ibang uri ng sulatin. So paano natin ito nailalapat no, sa mga sulatin na ginagawa natin. So these are the two learning outcomes under malayuning komunikasyon sa wikang Filipino. Okay? And of course, we have science and technology. May dalawa rin tayong focus dito. Use scientific knowledge to explain natural phenomena and protect Earth's resources. So nandyan, may mga tanong dito, may mga question dito na patungkol sa mga natural phenomena, bakit nagkakaroon ng day and night, anong dahilan ng four seasons, okay? And then protection ng Earth's resources, ano yung mga isyong pangkapaligiran, ng mga environmental issues, the issue on global warming, climate change, kaingin farming, murami fishing. So, may mga tanong no, na patungkol dyan. Then, utilize understanding of science to illustrate how technology has become beneficial to mankind. Pwedeng pumasok dito yung biotechnology natin, genetic engineering, GMOs, genetically modified organisms. So, lalapatan natin to ng mga karampatang tanong no, sa bawat learning outcomes at topic. Okay? And at ang panghuli, under component A is of course for mathematics. Okay? So exhibit competence in mathematical concepts and procedures, no? Yung mga basic mathematical concepts and procedures that are relevant to life, of course. Then relate mathematics with the real and the concrete through problems that occur in daily life. So application no ng ating mathematical knowledge into life. Okay? And then for the component B, personal and civic responsibilities. So first part dito, first subject is of course readings in Philippine history and society. So may dalawa ditong topics, no? 1.1, demonstrate understanding of the significant periods in Philippine history. So aalamin natin yung mga salient o yung mga most significant no, na mga pangyayari sa bawat period ng kasaysayan ng Pilipinas. And then 1.2, relate the significant periods of Philippine history with the transformation of society. No? So paanong naka-impluwensya ang kasaysayan ng Pilipinas sa pagpapanibago ng ating lipunan. So bahagi ito ng kasaysayan under social sciences. Okay? And then ikalawang subject is of course the life and works of Rizal. Na gaya ng sabi natin, hindi ito nawawala. Ito ay bahagi ng ating Republic Act 1425, yung teaching of Rizal's life, okay, and works. Okay? So may dalawa tayong learning outcomes dito. 2.1 is to manifest the ability to analyze how the thoughts, works, and valor of Rizal influence the nation. So may mga tanong dito na patungkol sa kabayanihan ni Rizal, mga sinulat ni Rizal, buhay ni Rizal, pamilya ni Rizal, di ba? So dito, lalapatan natin ito ng mga sample questions no, sa mga drill na gagawin natin sa mga susunod na araw. Okay? Then 2.2 is show how Rizal's feats of valor influence the other Philippine heroes. So, bibigyan din natin ng koneksyon yung buhay ni Rizal so, sa mga buhay ng ibang bayani. No? So, titignan natin paanong ang mga buhay ng ibang bayani ay naka-impluensya sa ipinakitang kagitingan ni Rizal. Okay? And I think this is the last for under component B, ethics. So may dalawa tayo dito. 3.1 is to demonstrate understanding of what is good for individuals and society. No? So nakikita natin ano yung kagandahan no, para sa mga individual at sa pangkalahatang lipunan. And then yung ikalawa, utilize logical inferential skills in resolving moral dilemma. So more of application questions, mga situational questions concerning moral ethics and moral standards. Okay? And of course, meron tayong letter C, the component C, the last component is of course the practical skills development. So dito, andyan yung the contemporary world. No? So dito titignan natin yung illustrating ways of relating global issues and concerns with local and global realities. So mga issue natin ng mga panlipunan could be environmental issues, economic issues, cultural issues, etc. Then we're going to identify ways by which the Philippines may participate in efforts to mitigate global problems. Kaya dito maaaring lumabas yung mga tanong patungkol sa SDG, Sustainable Development Goals na kailangan nating ma-achieve no, by 2030. And of course, ang ambisyon natin, 2040, yung ating Philippine Development Goal, kung saan naka-anchor ito sa tatlong napakahalagang bagay. Pagkakaroon ng isang matatag, panatag, at maginhawang buhay. And then, maaaring din nating maisama dito sa contemporary world yung Pagtanaw 2050 ng Department of Science and Technology kung saan naka-anchor yung mga S&T, R&D activities no dito sa Pagtanaw 2050 no. Kasi 'di ba, nauuso ngayon yung foresighting or futures thinking, 'di ba? So ito ay bahagi no ng pagbabago ng modernong panahon. This is under contemporary world. Okay, ikalawa, of course, art appreciation sa mga mahihilig sa sining, no? May mga tanong din tayo patungkol sa sining, patungkol sa arte, no? Patungkol sa iba't ibang klase ng arte. 2.1 is to demonstrate the ability to interpret artistic creations as expressions of the finer things in life. Okay? And then 2.2, manifest informed appreciation of various forms of art. Maaring visual arts, theater, diba, music, ano pa, sculpture, at marami pang iba. So that's part of art appreciation. Okay? And lastly, of course, under practical skills development is understanding the self. So 3.1, show familiarity with the factors and forces that affect the development of self-identity. So bahagi ito no ng mga ng ating GE subjects no. It could be questions in an application or in an analysis or in a creating form no. Then demonstrate the commitment to accomplish self-understanding as the means to a successful teaching career. So dito maaaring makita natin yung tawag dito, koneksyon ng pagiging pagkilala natin sa ating sarili na kung saan mag-udyok or magbabadya ng mas matagumpay no, na karera natin sa pagtuturo. So basically, this will be the coverage of your Gen Ed subjects for the March 2023 LEP onwards. Okay, so bahagi kasi ito, gaya ng sanabi ko, sa pag-i-issue ng Commission on Higher Education ng mga bagong Gen Ed subjects based on CMO number 20 series of 2030. Okay? So kung may tanong kayo, no, you can just comment in the video below, no? You can comment down below your comments para at least ma-address natin no, in the next uploads na gagawin natin. If you have, kung meron kayong mga agam-agam o mga katanungan patungkol sa Gen Ed. Alright, now let's go to the enhanced TOS for Prof Ed subjects of the Licensure Examination for Professional Teachers. So, pag-usapan naman natin, ano naman yung coverage ng Prof Ed. Alright. So, for Prof Ed, meron siyang 5 components. The first component is a teaching profession. 15% yan ng inyong examination, which accounts to 23 items. Then part B is the teacher and the school curriculum, methods and strategies of teaching, educational technology for teaching and learning, which accounts to 30%, 45 items ito. Then, component C, the child and adolescent learners and learning principles, 20%, no, 30 items. And then component D, assessment of learning, 15%, 22 items. And then lastly, field study and teaching internship, 20%, 30 items. So kung kikita nyo, the component B has the highest percentage with 30%, followed by component C and component E, then followed by component A and then component D. So alamin natin, ano yung ano yung mga subject areas or courses under these components, no? So, gumawa ulit ako ng matrix, sinati ko siya sa 5 based on the component. And then, the first column is actually the PRC enhanced TOS subject descriptions. And then, binangga ko siya doon sa subjects or courses na nakalagay sa CHAD Memorandum Order number 74 series of 2017, yung policies, standards, and guidelines or the PSGs for BEd. And the CMO number 75 series of 2017, yung PSGs naman for the BSED. Although maraming PSGs no, related to education, I only focused on the two major, the BSED and the BEd. Alright? So, basically, ang tanong, gaya ng tanong ko kanina sa Gen Ed, pareho lang ba yung coverage ng Prof Ed subjects, okay, or ng Prof Ed sa LET ng BEd and BSED? Yes po ang sagot. So, pareho lang. So, ito lang din yung coverage. So, nilagay ng PRC, no, yung foundations of the teaching learning process and the professional teacher under the component A. So, ano yung mga corresponding subjects nito na nasa curriculum? So, nakakita ko ng dalawa. Foundations of Special Inclusive Education. Okay, nakuha nyo yan, especially BS and BEd, di ba? Meron kayong subject niyan sa New Teacher Education Curriculum na inisyo ng 2017. Okay. Then the teacher and the community, school culture and organizational leadership kasi may mga foundational theories dito. Kaya inilagay ko din siya dito sa foundations of the teaching learning process. Okay? So, I'm just comparing no the reason why I came up with this matrix para lang ma-compare. Ano yung mga subjects na pupuno doon sa TOS na nilabas ng PRC, especially in the professional education. Then for the professional teacher, the teaching profession ng subject. So magkaiba lang no ng description, but that's the same. Ito yung, there will be questions about the profession of teaching, no? And probably qualities of a professional teacher. And of course, issues and concern in terms of probably code of ethics for professional teachers and some other relevant laws about teaching profession. Yan. Diyan lalabas yan. Then for letter B, medyo mahaba yung title. But these titles are actually composed of three subject areas. The teacher and the school curriculum, methods and strategies of teaching, and educational technology. So nung tiningnan ko yung curriculum, teacher education curriculum, both BEd and BSED, merong dalawang subjects akong nakitang relevant in this coverage or in this part, no? The teacher and the school curriculum, syempre, and the building and enhancing new literacies across the curriculum because these two subjects speak still about curriculum. Okay? Ito yung dating curriculum development, di ba? Sa old curriculum. So, medyo humaba lang ng mga pangalan nila but basically, ang mga questions dito would talk about the development of the curriculum per se. Paano na-develop ang curriculum sa Pilipinas, siyempre, at sa konteksto ng basic education and even in higher education. Okay? And then, methods and strategies of teaching, ang subject na nakalagay dyan sa teacher education curriculum is facilitating learner-centered teaching. So, how teachers facilitate learner-centered teaching. So, it talks about the pedagogical component, the pedagogical knowledge of a teacher in terms of ano yung mga methodologies, ano yung mga strategies, mga approaches, mga techniques, dito yan. No? Dito itatanong yan. Ano yung mga effective, most appropriate na mga teaching methodologies or instructional methodologies in a given situation. So, nandyan yan. Okay? And then, of course, last part under component B is educational technology or the EdTech. Ginamit pa rin nila EdTech, yan kasi yung old name, no? Pero kung titignan mo, yung New Teacher Education Curriculum, wala kang makikitang EdTech, okay? Ang makikita mo is TTL, or Technology for Teaching and Learning. Okay, so nilagay ko very specific, TTL1. Kasi yung TTL2 is under majorship. Okay, kasi dalawa yung TTL na ino-offer sa Teacher Education Curriculum. Isang pang Prof Ed, that is your TTL1, and then yung second mo will be the TTL2, which serves as majorship. Okay? Then component C, the child and adolescent learners and learning principles. Andito yan. Ang nakalagay sa PRC TOS is Head Start for toddlers, child, and adolescent. But of course, the subject, kung titignan natin to sa curriculum ninyo, na tinapos nyo, especially yung mga graduates ng new curriculum, no? I'm pertaining to the new curriculum yung 2017. Okay? If you are a graduate of the old curriculum, this would be an important guide for you so that you can prepare your study plan until March 2023 para at least makover ninyong lahat, yung Gen Ed, yung Prof Ed, and of course, if BS Ed kayo, yung specialization nyo or yung majorship. Okay? So, the child and adolescent learners and learning principles, So pinagsama, dati ito, child and adolescent psychology is another subject, and then principles of learning. Okay? Principles of teaching actually, no? So, dalawang subject. Pero ito, pinagsama na siya, yung adolescent learners and then learning principles. Well, sa bagay, may idea, may ano naman, may point naman. Like, if you understand, for example, your child and adolescent learners, and these are of course in different periods. There are of course different periods of learning. Ano yung mga possible principles sa pagtuturo sa bawat edad na ito? Okay? Okay, so we're done with A, B, C. We have two more, the D and the E. For D, a component D, assessment of learning, there's only one subject. Ito yung nakalagay sa PRC, enhanced TOS, validating theoretical knowledge in the actual assessment of learning. Pero kung titignan mo siya sa teacher education curriculum, ito siya, assessment in learning 1 and assessment in learning 2. So dalawa, which is the same lang naman in the old curriculum. Kaya lang yung old curriculum, ang term natin is assessment of learning 1 and assessment of learning 2. Dito, assessment in learning para to encompass assessment of, assessment for, and then assessment as learning. Okay. So, palagay ko, no? Kaya assessment in learning 1 and 2. Again, yung nasa second column ay base sa teacher education curriculum ng BEd and BSed. Okay? And then lastly, component E is the field study and teaching internship. So, kasama na rin ito sa coverage ng ating licensure examination for professional teachers come March 2023. So, ang nakalagay sa enhanced TOS, isa lang, documentation of experiential learning. But this actually corresponds to three important subjects, no? And collectively, ang tawag natin sa mga subject na to ay experiential learning subjects or experiential learning courses, which include field studies and teaching internship. So may tatlo, gaya ng sabi ko, FS1 or field study 1, observations of teaching learning in actual school environment, and FS2, the participation and teaching assistantship. Remember, in the old curriculum, may 6 tayong field studies. Okay, di ba? FS1 to FS6. I'm actually a product of course, old curriculum. Alright, and then of course, in the new curriculum, naging dalawa na lang yan. And usually, this is offered during the first semester of the 4th year of the senior year in the teacher education. Depende, no? Depende on the school. Pwede kasing magbaliktad or pwedeng magsabay, no? Depende. Kasi usually, depending on the school calendar. But the second semester will be, of course, the teaching internship. So the teaching internship is, of course, the practice teaching. Ang tawag natin in the old curriculum, we call it the practice teaching. Okay? Kaya ang tawag natin sa mga nagpa-practice teaching, mga practice teacher. Now, teaching interns or student teacher or pre-service teacher or prospective teacher. Okay? And then the component, second subject under component E is of course action research. So napaka linaw na isinama ito ng PRC yung action research at ang corresponding subject niyan sa teacher education curriculum under CMO 74 and 75 is research and teaching. So marami na ring tanong, no, patungkol sa research. Lalo ngayon, we are in the knowledge-based society, we are in education 5.0, and so the research, no, is very important as we, contribute, no, to the creation of new knowledge that will actually benefit the society in terms of flourishing or enhancing the quality of education that we have in the country. Okay? So, yung pinakita kong matrix sa inyo is just a summary. So, alamin natin yung bawat topics and learning outcomes under each of these subjects. So, again, for component A, teaching profession number 1, foundations of the teaching learning process, may mga questions about applying philosophical and sociological principles in teaching learning situations. Ito yung mga favorite niyong isms, yan, mga essentialism, progressivism, mga ganyan, di ba? Existentialism, nandiyan pa rin naman sila. Okay? And that would, of course, in connection to the teaching learning situation. Number 2, 1.2, apply foundation theories of special and inclusive education. Gaya na nakita niyo sa matrix, ito yung foundation of special and inclusive education kasi tinitignan na dapat ang mga prospective teachers ay maalam din. Kung hindi man very comprehensive, at least you have foundational knowledge about special and inclusive education. Lalo ngayon that we are, we are mainstreaming, no, yung mga special and gifted and talented, no, children in our classroom. So at least meron tayong alam about special education or SPED, and of course, promoting inclusive education that everyone is actually included in the teaching learning process, which is of course anchored also on our goal on EFA or education. Okay. Then number two, the professional teachers, there are two here. Describe the professional teacher and the ways and means to ensure high standards of the teacher's personal and professional life. Andyan yung iba't ibang provisions ng Code of Ethics for Professional Teachers, no? Mga situational questions. And then explain what teaching is and the various roles of a teacher in meeting challenges in the 21st century. What are the roles of the teacher now in this particular era? Now that we are still in a global contagion, no? Paano, meron bang paradigm shift ng role ng mga teachers sa tinatanong ito? And then, what are the characteristics of professional teachers? No? May mga sample descriptions yan. And then, we're going to ask to select what particular characteristic or quality or is being asked in the question. So, yan, no? Ay bahagi pa rin ng ating teaching profession. And then 2.3 under the professional teacher, demonstrate understanding of the concepts of the teacher as a school culture catalyst, no? So yung ating contribution sa kultura ng school, transformational leader, how do we actually practice our being educational leader, and educational resources manager, how do we develop instructional materials, how do we curate materials now that we are still using flexible learning modalities, no? With responsibilities as specified in the Code of Ethics for Professional Teachers. So, lagi naka-ankla doon. Kasi, meron tayong code this is code for of ethics for professional teachers na dapat guided tayo, na dapat isinasabuhay natin or na-uphold. Okay? Then, component B, the teacher in the school curriculum, demonstrate research-based knowledge of the concepts, theories, and principles in curriculum planning, design, development, and evaluation. So, dito makikita niyo yung iba't ibang curriculum theories, curriculum models, different definitions of curriculum, ano nga bang curriculum, what is a curriculum, and what is not a curriculum. Ayan. So may mga tanong patungkol dyan. So bahagi pa rin naman to ng curriculum development in the old curriculum. Okay? And then number 2, methods and strategies of teaching. Dito natin makikita yung demonstrate knowledge of teaching strategies that build and enhance new literacies inclusive of multicultural, social, media, financial, cyber or digital, ecological, arts, and creativity new literacies across the curriculum. So basically, andito yung mga iba't ibang approaches, iba't ibang methods, iba't ibang strategies na ginagamit ng teacher in different across subject areas, no? Pwedeng tanungin ka about the specific area in enhancing the cognitive skills, enhancing critical thinking, in teaching strategies that would, for example, promote collaboration, mga ganon. Dyan din matetest kayo, no? May mga tanong dyan about specific teaching strategies such as, for example, play classroom, brain-based strategy, jigsaw, teaching strategy, collaborative, computer-aided, etc. Napakaraming teaching strategy. So dito yan, no? Dito tatanungin yan under methods and strategies of teaching. And then 2.2, prepare developmentally sequenced lesson plans with well-aligned learning outcomes and competencies based on K-12 spiral curriculum requirements. So may mga tanong dito about the K-12 curriculum, the alignment of the learning outcomes to your assessment, no? Paano or what are the parts of a lesson plan? Okay, what are the general parts, no? And siguro may mga tanong din dito about descriptions of each part of this lesson plan. So may mga tanong, for example, you have to describe a particular part of a lesson plan. So nandito yun, diba? Sana hindi kayo na-overwhelm, no? At least nag-guide tayo, no? Sa mga, kung ano yung kailangan nating ma-review, no? Ano yung kailangan nating basahin, at ano yung kailangan nating paghandaan. Dahil bago, no? Bago itong ating table of specifications. Masasabi natin bago, pero syempre meron pa rin mga old na kasama pa rin dito na parang nire-package lang na mas maayos. Okay? I'm not saying hindi maayos yung old curriculum. I mean, nire-package siya in such a way na alam natin na ito yung in-offer ng mga courses or mga subject areas sa new teacher education curriculum. And then, naglabas si PRC ng TOS para lang maibangga ng bawat topic na to doon sa existing mga subject areas. Okay? So that's it, no, for methods and strategies. We also have 2.3 I think na-mention ko siya. Iba pala to. 2.3, utilize the concepts of new literacies in the 21st century. So, andyan yung mga concept ng globalization and multicultural literacy, social literacy, media literacy, financial literacy, cyber literacy, digital literacy, eco-literacy, arts and creative literacy, interdisciplinary explorations and other teaching strategies, and shared cultural practices across learning areas. Kaya nga, di ba, in the previous set, nakikita niyo yung mga question about, okay, managing the financial resources of teachers. So that speaks about financial literacy, the awareness of teachers in the different environmental issues and concerns. So that's eco-literacy. So ayun, no, itong mga new literacies in the 21st century ay itinatanong na rin sa ating licensure examination. At bahagi ito ng 2.3 under the methods and strategies of teaching. Okay, so that's the last learning outcome under the tawag dito, methods and strategies. Now we go to the educational technology to employ teaching strategies, methods, instructional materials and technology, classroom management techniques, appropriate to subject areas and inclusive of learners from indigenous groups. So dito naman may mga tanong about computer-based teaching strategies, mga conventional teaching strategies that makes use of educational technology tools. Ayan. So, nandito lahat yan. And even, of course, yung sensitivity ng mga technology na ginagamit natin sa classroom into diverse group of students like learners from indigenous group, learners who are, let's say, with differently abled learners, or learners who are living in, for example, vulnerable or areas with high risks. Mga ganyan. Okay? Then 3.2 demonstrates skills in developing and using a variety of conventional and non-conventional resources, including ICT to address learning goals and needs of various learners. So dito, may mga tanong about the traditional EdTech, no, or teaching, technology and teaching learning, and of course, your ICT base. So may mga tanong about, example, the use of Manila paper, Cartolina, the use of PowerPoint, the use of Canva, for example, the use of MS Excel. So lahat ng mga educational technologies and their corresponding uses in the context of education, pwedeng dito matanong. Okay? And very important, yung inyong technology integration matrix, di ba? Your entry to transformation. Dito rin yan pwedeng matanong. And if even the Dale, no, Edgar Dale Cone of Experience. So dito pwedeng ilagay. Okay? And then, component C is the child and adolescent learners and learning principles. So number 1, nag-isa lang naman to, Head Start for toddlers, child, and adolescent. So 1.1, apply pedagogical approaches to the student-centered teaching and learning process that is metacognitive, innovative, inclusive, and developmentally appropriate for child and adolescent learners. So dito, may mga tanong about child and adolescent psychology, yung mga theories about child and adolescent learning, and yung mga learning principles, no, base doon sa K-12, no, the aims and goals of the K-12 program. So, nandito lahat. Okay? And then 1.2, appraise a learning environment that is responsive to learners from various family background, economic level groupings, and social-cultural affiliation. So, may mga tanong dito about theories, no? Pwedeng lumabas dyan yung mga theory ni Piaget, ni Pavlov, theory ni yung ecosystems theory, nandyan din, theory ni Bandura, no? So basically, this could be sample questions, no, under this particular area of concern in Prof. Okay? And then we'll have also the child and adolescent learners, 1.3, no? Demonstrate understanding of differentiated teaching to suit the learner's gender, strength, interest, experiences, and needs. So dito nakikita natin yung diversity of learners, no? How can teachers be able to teach, no? Considering the diverse learners. Na bahagi pa rin ng ating PPSD or the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers. Okay? Then 1.4, draw implications of research findings related to child development along biological, cognitive, linguistic, social, cultural dimension. So makikita natin dito, there will be questions about research findings, recent research findings concerning child development. Okay? andito rin yung concept ng growth, development, maturation, yan, mga yan. So, under yan ng component C. Okay? Then the next component, of course, the component D, assessment of learning. So, isa lang to, yung validating theoretical knowledge in the actual assessment of learning. So, 1.1, demonstrate understanding of principles in constructing traditional, alternative, authentic forms of high-quality assessment. So, dito nakikita natin paano ba tayo gagawa ng assessment task, ano yung mga principles of assessment, what are the types of assessment, what is a traditional assessment, what is alternative assessment, what is authentic assessment, andito yan. Okay? Then 1.2, apply knowledge and skills in the development and use of assessment tools for formative and summative purposes. So dyan yung makikita yung mga tanong about summative assessment, formative assessment, ano ba yung assessment of learning, assessment as learning, assessment for learning. So, nandito lahat yan. Okay? Then, 1.3, apply rules in test construction and use of authentic assessment tools for product and process assessment. Dito lumalabas yung mga authentic assessment natin, yung mga process-based assessment, product-based assessment, project-based assessment, yung mga project-based learning, and then lalabas din dito yung mga rules, how to write multiple choice type of test, a binary type of test, essay type of test, what else? Matching type, enumeration, identification. Nandito lahat yan. So, maaari din kayong tanongin about what are the do's and don'ts, no? For example, how do you call it? In formulating, no, multiple choice tests, no? Lalo, di ba, we are being equipped, no, with the principles, no, in test construction. Okay? And then 1.4, demonstrate skills interpreting assessment results to improve learning. You know, lalabas dito yung mga tanong, what's the difference between a test, a measurement, an assessment, and an evaluation. Okay, nasa ano natin yan, di ba? Assessment of learning. So, nandyan yan. And then 1.5, comprehend and apply basic concepts of statistics and educational assessment and evaluation. Ayan, dyan papasok yung inyong mga index of difficulty, index of discrimination, ano yung mga tawag dito, ano yung mga ranges ng mga ito, and then lalabas din dyan yung upper limit, lower group, upper group. Pwedeng lumabas din dito yung mga test of reliability. Now, for example, if you want to establish, no, the reliability of your tests, no, that you're going to use in your respective classes. Nandito yan. Okay? And then 1.6 is to demonstrate knowledge of providing timely, accurate, and constructive feedback to learners and parents. So how do we actually, for example, compute the grades and how do we confer it to the parents? Lalabas dito yung assessment na ginagawa sa DepEd. Remember yung pinaka-Bible natin ng assessment sa DepEd, the DepEd Order Number 8 Series of 2015, kung saan nandoon yung mga assessment schemes natin. Like for example, sa summative assessment, we have 3 major components: your written work, performance test, and quarterly assessment. So nandun, no, itatanong yan under these particular learning outcomes. Ano pa? Pwedeng lumabas dyan yung percentage distribution ng bawat component ng summative assessment na to. For example, for math, for sciences, ilang percentage ang written work, performance test, and quarterly assessment. Okay? And then lastly is of course component E, the field study and teaching internship. So dito gaya ng sinabi ko sa inyo, may tatlong components, di ba? FS1, FS2, and your teaching internship. So for documentation of experiential learning 1.1, we're going to describe authentic experiential learning from field study and actual classroom immersion as a prospective teacher. So may mga questions dito about the field, no? About what the prospective teachers or pre-service teachers have observed in the field. And then 1.2, demonstrate skills in teaching assistantship and guided mentored classroom teaching. Pwede nang lumabas dito yung mga tanong na related to DepEd, like for example, yung mga different school forms, no? What is DLL or this daily lesson lag, ano ba? Paano yung, for example, what are the requirements na kailangan kunin ng teacher, for example, in the enrollment, okay? And then probably, pwede ring lumabas na dito yung different CPD activities, no, na pwedeng gawin inside the school, like for example, the LAC session or the learning action cell. So it's more of like field study and the teaching internship as a whole. Okay? All right. And then 1.3, prepare portfolio and process of learning behavior, motivation, classroom management, and assessment from direct observation of teaching learning episodes in an actual school environment. So there would be application of what the students have learned, no, in the courses paglalabas na sila. So like for example, yun nga, portfolio preparation, how do they manage the classroom, how do they uh, craft assessment tasks, and then lastly, 1.4, demonstrate reflective thinking. And so teachers must be reflective, okay? So that they'll be able to reflect about how can they still further enhance, no, their teaching, no, and to be able to produce holistic learners. Okay, I think okay, that's the last, no, for the number one, and then for number two is of course our action research. So in our review drills, mag-aano rin ako, magre-ready rin ako, magpe-prepare din ako ng mga research-related items, no, to correspond to these learning outcome. Demonstrate ability to identify teaching learning problems and offer recommendations based on research. Pag-usapan natin, magbibigay ako ng mga sample questions about depth and basic education research agenda, what is action research, what are the action research models na ginagamit sa DepEd, what are the statistical tools that we can employ, may mga ganong tanong, okay? What are the, ano ba, mga different types of action research, what is quantitative research, what is qualitative research, and the like. So, sasagutin natin yan dito, no? So, may mga sample drills tayo patungkol. All right, so that's it. That ends, no? That's the last action research about the enhanced TOS for Prof Ed subjects of LEPT. Sorry for the major major subheading. Let's just consider the second subheading. I'm talking about now the Prof Ed. Natapos na natin yung GE kanina. We're talking about Prof Ed, no? So kung sa GE meron tayong 3 components, in the Prof Ed we have 5 components. And hopefully, no, ay mag-guide kayo, okay, ng mga ito. This will serve as your guide in your preparation of your study plan. So as early as now, I hope na base doon sa mga subjects na nasa TOS ng PRC ay malaligyan nyo, no, anong week ninyo i-review yung particular subject na to. For example, for Gen Ed, for Prof Ed, and then of course a lot for specialization. So mga sa BS Ed, there is also an enhanced table of specification per specific majorships. Okay, so basically the focus of this video, of this episode, is only in the general education and professional education, so that this will serve as your guide, no, as you prepare, no, for the upcoming board exam come March 2023. And sa mga mas maaga, kung magti-take kayo on September 2023, this will be an important guide for all. So these are the references I used in the preparation of this presentation. Okay, if you have questions, clarifications, no, might as well comment that in the comment box below so that I will address them if I can, or maybe I can consult, no, an authority about your questions if I think hindi ko siya kayang sagutin. Alright, so these are my references. Sa lahat po ng mga hindi pa nakakapag-subscribe sa aking channel, please do subscribe so that you will be updated sa lahat ng ating mga pag-uusap, sa mga discussions na gaya nito, and sa mga ating mga next LEPT review drills and rationalization. And thank you so much. I'd like to appreciate all of you for the support and for all your comments in the different videos that I've been uploading for the past weeks. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. And of course, my well wishes for all of you, especially those who will be taking the 2023 Licensure Examination for professional teachers. So maaga tayong maghanda para hindi tayo magka-cram, no, or mag-rush later on. So my commitment, no, hintayin ninyo ang ilan pa sa mga videos na ilalabas natin, no, na naka-anchor na sa March 2023 Enhanced Table of Specification issued by the PRC for the Licensure Examination for professional teachers. So maraming salamat until our next video.